Hi everyone, welcome back to chapter 4 of the Witches Cottage tutorial. Today we're going to do the roof shingles and the ridge tile. This is completely optional. You could just paint the roof, you could use a roof tile paper. I've seen people create a thatched cottage roof from a hanging basket liner before. I think this creates a really cute scalloped roof that is perfect for this cottage. And it's actually really quick to get a really good effect. So you can see here I've painted all the edges in the black. Is the underlying theme of this cottage, so of course you can paint in whichever sort of base colour you're using. You just need to make sure you've got the edges done so that any gaps in the tiles you won't see the base chipboard. Now for the shingles in this project I spaced them 1 centimetre apart. So I literally just took a pencil and marked down 1 centimetre gaps from the top. That ensures that I end up with, at the top, sort of one whole shingle line so that the ridge tile sits nicely there. But as always in roofing, we're working from the bottom up. So I've got 2 piles of tiles. The ones on the left have a whole tile at each end, and the ones on the right have a half tile. This is to help you create the exact sort of half overlapped effect when they're situated on the roof. And you can see there that they perfectly overlap. So this takes a lot of the guesswork out of creating the really good effect of these shingles. Just check when you're resizing that 1-inch square that the complete width of the shingles are 11 inches to match the Cricut chipboard that we're using as whole sheets for the roof. As always, every Cricut machine cuts differently and has a tolerance of a few mil that it might be over or under, so it might be worth cutting a practice sort of shingle length, making sure that fits exactly, and if not, adjust the whole file by 1 or 2 mil either way. My shingles were about sort of a couple of mil. They were longer than the chipboard. Reduced my overall dimensions width down to sort of 10.8 inches, I think. I'm just using a regular PVA glue here. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. We're going to use quite a lot of it. So I just dispense some into a pot. Use quite a big stiff brush because I kind of use the brush to help push the shingles onto the chipboard and then sort of press them down with it. So you certainly don't want one of your finest brushes to do this. You just want a good stiff sort of brush, quite stiff bristles, and one that you're prepared to ruin. The black of this craft board sort of got stuck into the bristles, you know, so don't use an expensive brush. And as you've marked down the sort of side of the roof in the 1 centimetre gaps, you'll come to a natural point at the bottom where you think, okay, that'll be where I stick my first tile. And literally just glue along the edge. The scalloped bottom of this particular shingle strip is going to stick over the bottom, so we don't really want glue on that. And you could do this shingling before you actually make the roof and build it, but I found it easier to work on these when they were sort of, I've just put the roof on the ground floor portion and it's sort of a really nice angle and height in front of me to put the shingles on, but it's up to you. So you just line up each end with the pencil marks and press it down lightly. Smooth it along so that it's adhered all the way along and there's no gaps. And it's literally that simple. I use the brush then to sort of push in the glue on the top, emboss it down a bit. And then this is the half tile strip. So pick a good side Sometimes you might have a little material might be nicked or pulled on one side, so just pick the best side. They're symmetrical, so you can flip them over. On these ones I do glue over everything, including the scalloped edge. Because I want those to stick down. I think it's when they stick up in the air that they don't look quite right. So you just pick the next centimetre pencil mark up, line it up, press it down. Use your brush to push it down. And then I also use the brush in downward strokes to make sure that the scalloped edge is stuck down. If you've got anything that's lifting off, put some more glue in there. This was a really, really relaxing and fun part of the build. No skill really required. Just sit there gluing away with some music on. And then the trickiest bit is just remembering to see whether you need a full tiled end or a half tiled end. And it doesn't matter, certainly with this glue, if any came through onto the tiles, because as I was brushing down, if there was any glue that seeped out, it kind of got brushed in a downward direction to look like the slate. When you have a little bit of riven slate, it kind of added to that, and it wasn't over shiny, it just gave it a nice luster. So for me, any excess glue left on the brush, brushed down over the tiles to help them stick down, actually created a nice slate effect. If you were really bothered, you could then coat the whole roof in a matte varnish or sealer, or even a gloss varnish or sealer if you wanted a shiny look. And you might think, oh, that looks patchy, but it actually dries really nicely. And you can just see there the benefit of painting the edges, so where the tiles sort of go to the edge, if you looked at it from the front or the rear side, you just see black and not chipboard, but nothing shows through the actual rows of tiles because they're overlapped by enough. You could space them out more than a centimetre if you wanted. If you do use the sort of centimetre depth, I used 27 rows of shingles on each side of the roof. So once you've cut one shingle width and you're happy that it's a good width for your chipboard, you will need 27 of each whole tile rows and half tile rows. So doing my maths, that's 54 rows of shingles in all, which sounds like a lot, but it's certainly quicker than doing them in individual shingles by hand. So we just again pick the next row, glue it on and press it down and work your way up the roof. So here we have the last full line of shingles have gone on and glued on. And we've got the first part of the ridge tile. This will be scored by the machine. If you don't know how to attach the score line, there's a tutorial in the group for that. When you import an SVG, it doesn't come with the score lines attached, so you need to attach that in Design Space. I'll put a link to that video below. So you just crease it along the score line, use the same glue, and then whether you overlapped the two sort of roof pieces or you sort of just butted them up to each other, this ridge tile will cover that join anyway. That's why it doesn't really matter which way you do that. You line this up, press it down, and then just use, it does look awfully messy, but it dries perfectly fine. Use your brush to press it down. And just make sure that the crease is pressed down to the join in the roof. I hope you had fun doing that, I certainly did. So the final bit of the roof is the ridge tile detail part on the top. Again, this is completely optional. I cut 2 of these in craft board to the 11-inch wide dimensions. I glued them together and pressed them under my big granite slab that I use. Make sure there's no gaps and they're sort of as flat as they can be. And then I just put a bead of tacky glue along the bottom. I started at one end, made sure that was sitting up perpendicular almost, you know, to the roof, so it was straight up in the air. Held that and then sort of moved along inch by inch, just bringing the detail down onto the top there of the ridge tile as I went, just pressing it into place and keeping the whole thing upright. This is probably the fiddliest bit of the roof, but if you can manage to do it, I think it adds a really bit of character. And then I did sort of hold that in place and keep checking that there were no gaps, that it was pointing upright until the glue took hold, which was probably about 5 minutes. And that's it finished. You can seal it with varnish or sealant, you could age it, or you could put moss on it. And of course you could do it in other colours. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Join me next time for chapter 5 where we add the gingerbread trim. Thank you for watching and I'll see you again soon.